Hello, this is Alan welcoming you to the 2075th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 24th of November 2016. The readers this week are Sonia, Jenny, Roz and myself, with Ian on the controls. The editor is Lynda, and the production and distribution team are Keith, Phillip, Joan and Jean. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prie, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breuer, and is performed by the late, great Jean-Jacques Perrier, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include Bright Idea for Road Safety, Not So Smart, Raw Deal for Youth, Churches sing out to help refugees. Oh, and Enfield Talking newspaper had a stall at the Enfield Vision Focus Day on the 20th of October. And at that occasion, our president, Pat Allbutt, was manning the stand for hours, and thanks to Pat for doing that. We had a comments book for current listeners and a sign-up sheet for new listeners. And I thought you would like to read out, and I am, some of the lovely comments. From Mr. M. My wife gets talking news regularly and is very grateful for your service. And from Mrs. T. Thank you for keeping in touch. And most importantly, from Anonymous. Thank you so much for this service. My mum looks forward to it all the time. Now I'm looking at a photo of dear Pat, who is standing at that stall grinning heartily, and behind her is a poster backdrop which features Diane de Jersey, our listeners' representative, and her husband Keith. You might like to know that sunrise tomorrow, the 25th of November, will be at 7:36 and sunset at 3:59 in the afternoon. Do get in touch with us and share your own news and special announcements. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments about Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She, as I said, is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. And now Sonia will read the first item of local news.
Bright idea for road safety. Children at a primary school are encouraging their families to pledge to stick to road safety rules as part of a national campaign to keep them safe. George Spicer School's Travel Council decided to ask families to take selfies holding up road safety signs. They urged their parents to join in the campaign and hold up signs showing that they are committing to sticking to 20 miles an hour speed limits around the school and making sure everyone in a car wears a seatbelt. Their campaign is part of National Road Safety Week. Pupils at the school in Southbury Road, Enfield, are joining in quizzes, competitions and activities to learn more about road safety. Teacher Sonia Allen, who works with the 16 pupils on the Travel Council, which looks at road safety, sustainable travel and walking to school, said, "The council wanted to raise awareness of the 20 miles an hour speed limit in the area and the impact of wearing a seatbelt for adults and children. The selfies will be put on display in the school grounds. Pupils are also wearing brightly coloured clothes for a Wacky Wednesday event at school to promote Be bright, be seen. They are paying £1 to wear their multicoloured mufti, and the money will go towards buying a banner promoting road safety to be displayed outside the school. It will be calling for motorists to stick to the 20 miles an hour limit. Mrs. Allen added, "We've also done a survey of how children and staff travel to school, and we'll be analysing it." She said that people used a mixture of different transport to get to school. Many teachers walk or cycle, while some of them park and stride on their way to work. There is a picture next to this article showing 4 school children wearing their high-vis waistcoats and holding up signs saying, "I promise to be slow and secure." They are standing out on the pavement outside George Spicer School.
Not so smart. Meters will enable snooping and pose a health risk, claim campaigners. Opposition to the installation of smart meter devices by utility companies to monitor household energy consumption is gathering pace across Enfield. Hundreds have joined a Facebook page in a David and Goliath-style fight, pitting the consumer against the government, which has given the go-ahead to install them in every home by 2020. A smart meter is a wireless device which records consumption of electricity, gas and water in 30-minute intervals and beams that information back to a central database held by each utility firm. Ministers set out plans nearly a decade ago, claiming the meters will help customers cut bills, and governments meet environmental targets. Charlotte Palmer of Ordnance Road, Enfield Lock, set up the Stop Smart Meters in Enfield Facebook page and is knocking on doors every evening to make residents aware of the dangers of the devices. She believes the central database of utility information will be a tempting target for hackers and identity thieves. Campaigners also claim that the electromagnetic radiation pulses the devices emit pose a health hazard. Miss Palmer, 45, said, "The meters have been installed in the road and once they are turned on will collect details about how people use electricity and gas, allowing snoopers to scrutinise what time someone goes to bed, washes or uses their computer. They can tell hackers when we're in or out, on holiday, in bed. It's a massive invasion of privacy and potentially very dangerous if it gets into the wrong hands." Global giants which supply gas, water and electricity have until 2020 to install them or face hefty fines. Enfield Council has given Thames Water permission to dig up the pathways in Ordnance Road and install the devices. Thames Water does not need permission from households to install them in Enfield because London is a high water consumption area. Meters can also be installed inside properties. Danny Lehman, Thames Water's head of metering, said, "Installing water meters is important, not just because they give our customers greater control over their water use, but also for the environment, as climate change and population growth put ever-increasing pressure on our water resources. We also believe meters are the fairest way to pay, because you pay for what you use, value what you pay for, and so tend to use water more efficiently. Water companies can meter domestic premises on a compulsory basis in areas which have been determined by the Secretary of State to be of serious water stress, which London is. The meters are activated shortly after being installed, so the radio signals can be checked. We write to customers to let them know, and from then on, they will have 2 years before they are switched to a metered bill, or sooner if they want." Mr. Lehman added that the devices posed no health risk and data would be transferred using robust encryption. Miss Palmer has been inspired by friends in Haringey who set up a successful smart meter resistance group, and she is also urging as many residents as possible to attend the council's ward meeting at Ordnance Road Library in Hertford Road on Tuesday, December the 6th at 7:30 p.m, when the item is on the agenda.
Raw deal for youth. Children and teenagers living in Enfield with mental health problems are getting the second rawest deal in England. Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group has allocated just £2.33 per head for young people's mental health services, excluding eating disorders, spending for 2016 to 17. The figure is just 32p more than £2.01 Luton spends, which is the lowest in the country. And Enfield MP Joan Ryan has now written to the group, urging it to give mental health the priority it deserves. In her letter to the chairman of the Enfield CCG, Dr Mo Abedi, Ms Ryan is asking the body to ensure extra investment is provided to frontline mental health services. She said, "Mental health disorders affecting children and adolescents are a serious issue. The number of young people aged under 18 attending the accident and emergency departments in England due to a psychiatric condition doubled between 2010 and 2015. And the demand for young people's mental health services in Enfield and elsewhere has never been greater. So the analysis by the Royal College of Psychiatrists is deeply concerning. It is vital that the CCG reviews its spending commitments in this area, and it is also incumbent on the government to provide better support to our chronically underfunded and overstretched local health services." An NHS Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group, CCG, spokesman said, Enfield CCG plans to spend £5.6 million on child and adolescent mental health services in 2016-17. This equates to £17 per head of population. In common with other CCGs, we have received additional funding for the year 17 to 18, which we will use to invest further in these very important services.
Churches sing out to help refugees. Churches have come together to hold a Christmas carol concert for refugees. St George's Anglican Church, Ordnance Road Methodist Church, Albany Church and Totteridge Road Baptist Church are holding the event for the Enfield Refugee Welcome Group. A statement from the group leaders said, "In an age where nations across the world appear to be putting up barriers that deny our common humanity, connectedness and dependence upon each other, London remains a beacon of cross-cultural friendship and creativity. So we seek to reach out to those forced out of their country by circumstances beyond their control. Together this Christmas, the EN3 churches stand in support of those affected by the Syrian crisis. The carol concert will be held at St George's Anglican Church, Hertford Road, on Sunday, December the 11th at 4:30 p.m. People are also invited to attend a rehearsal for the event, an hour and a half before the event actually starts.
Twinkling brightly, the big Christmas lights switch on at Palace Gardens Shopping Centre in Enfield Town on Saturday had festive fun lovers glowing with delight. A host of spectacular attractions spread Yuletide cheer as families and shoppers were treated to a magical afternoon of entertainment and guest appearances. Most notable among them was Santa himself, who joined 4-year-old Lily Mae Sturgeon and Effie Yuxel, 8, as they threw the switch under a fake snowfall to turn on the lights. The two youngsters had won the privilege after entering a competition on the shopping centre's Facebook page. and proving as popular as Santa, if not more so, was the appearance of life-size characters Catboy, Owlet and Gecko from the animated children's TV show PJ Masks. Also entrancing were a couple of beautiful and mischievous stilt-walking snow foxes called the Raiju, while shoppers were in fits of laughter as Mr. Scratchit pulled Mr. Scrooge around in a musical armchair, singing humorous renditions of Christmas hits by Wham, East 17 and Mariah Carey. Palace Gardens manager Paul Duke said, "Everyone loved the snow when the lights went on. PJ Masks were really popular with the youngsters, and there was great entertainment for shoppers of all ages."
And now a very important announcement. Changes to your green bin service. Fortnightly collections will start in March 2017. Go to www.enfield.gov.uk to find out more.
An inspirational mother has won a prestigious award for helping a friend who was in need of support when her newborn son was rushed into intensive care. Natalie Lusardi, 28, of Manaway, Bush Hill Park, has received the Infacal Award Parenting Award, which recognises individuals who go to the extra mile in helping new parents. Natalie provided much-needed support last year to a friend, Catherine Kelly, 28, whose son had to be treated in intensive care at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. Having experienced medical complications with her own baby, Natalie knew how worrying it was to care for a newborn in hospital and then to go home exhausted to cook dinner. And Natalie wanted to lend a helping hand, so she rallied friends and family together, and they took it in turns each night to prepare and deliver a meal for Catherine and her husband Alex. I wanted them to focus their time on their baby boy and not worry about preparing dinner after they got back from long days in the hospital, explained Natalie. After you've had a baby, you don't have time to cook, but it's really important to have a hot, nutritious meal. It's the best gift you can give to new parents. Catherine nominated Natalie for the award because she wanted her support to be recognised. Through my son's life, Natalie has been a rock, said Catherine. She is an inspirational friend and mother, and she continually puts herself out for others. Natalie's son Sebastian, now 16 months, also experienced health problems when he was born and developed severe jaundice, as well as an allergy to cow's milk protein when he was 5 months old. Going through that allergy with my son has made me more determined to help other parents, said Natalie. So I've made it my mission to do just that. It's not embarrassing to need help. It doesn't show any weakness. Everybody needs that support. And by this article there's a picture of Natalie, and it's shown with her award, which is a large glass tumbler engraved with the Infacal Real World Parenting Award winner of 2016.
Green-fingered pupils decided to give it some welly when they spruced up their grounds at the primary school and built wildlife habitats. Their unusual horticultural designs scooped George Spicer Primary an award for the best school grounds with an environmental and educational aspect at this year's Enfield in Bloom's Award. Breakfast and after-school club manager Amanda Cassidy helped them create homes for wildlife. They filled old Wellington boots with plants and recycled old school furniture, which they transformed into unusual planters. The children hung 40 pairs of blooming boots on the railings at the school in Southbury Road, Enfield, to attract wildlife and create a floral display. The pupils who attend the school's Stage 1 Easter and Summer clubs filled the shelving with compost and planted an array of colourful plants. School's business manager Esther Campbell said, They also collected large drink bottles and cut them in half to make colourful rainbows around the school. We are planning to spend the £20 vouchers the school won to do more. We want to get some new trellises. Enfield businesses, including Thompson's of Cruise Hill, Homebase and B&Q, donated plants and materials. 7-year-olds Grace Linnane and Jack Campbell and Acacia McLaren, age 6, picked up their award at the prize-giving ceremony at the Royal Chase Hotel in the Ridgeway, Enfield, last Thursday. And this article is accompanied by a picture of a beaming Isabella Ayres and Acacia McLaren, shown holding the Enfield in Bloom 2016 award.
A church minister caused havoc in her own church to highlight persecution of Christians. The Reverend Henrietta Wentick, who runs Lancaster Road United Reformed Church in Enfield, left a trail of destruction in the building. Chairs were hurtled across the room, and rubbish, leaflets and other pieces of paper were left in a mound on the floor. But the Reverend Wentick says it was all for a good cause, and she created the mess as part of International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church. When her parishioners arrived for their Sunday night service and were greeted with the mess, they decided to continue with their evening prayer. She said, "As a group, we decided that it would be good to still have a time of worship and prayer, even in the midst of the chaos. It was then that I confessed who the real culprit was." The rest of the service continued with thinking about and praying for the persecuted church. Somehow the surrounding scene worked. Seldom have I heard such a small number of people in a church sing with so much power, or felt so close a connection with our persecuted Christian sisters and brothers. She was inspired to act after watching videos of churches in Syria and Iraq from organisation Open Doors. She said, "I was touched by the small number of Christians left in these countries. Yet the churches have opened their doors to welcome refugees where and when they are able to. I wanted to raise awareness of it in our church service. These churches are setting an example of love, forgiveness, and reconciliation at grassroots level. I'm convinced that this will eventually overcome the hatred of ISIS."
A total of 15 new council houses will be built on the site of an old pub. Enfield Council is starting work on the new development in Ordnance Road, where the former Kettering Hall and pub site used to be. The houses will front onto a new mews between Rotherfield Road and Beaconsfield Road, and will include 16 off-street parking spaces. 2 of the new houses will be fully wheelchair accessible. This week, Councillor Ahmet Oykner, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Housing and Regeneration, visited the site to see for himself where the houses would be built. Councillor Oykner said, "Enfield Council is proud to begin work in Ordnance Road, which will see 15 new family houses built, which will be 100% for affordable rent, which exceeds the Greater London Authority, GLA, target of 50%. It is becoming increasingly difficult to deliver developments with 100% affordable housing, but it is particularly important for Enfield, which has areas where it is much needed."
London Fire Brigade has released figures showing that attendance at road traffic accidents are at an all-time high. The Fire Brigade is urging drivers to take extra care after these new figures, which list Enfield on the top of 4 London's call-outs, revealed a significant increase in the number of accidents crews are called to. In Enfield alone, they attended 987 incidents between 2011 and 2015. Dave Brown, Director of Operations at London Fire Brigade, said, "Our crews are spending an increasing amount of time attending road traffic collisions, and I want to urge people to take care when they're driving on the road." The new figures have been released to coincide with Road Safety Week.
Now this is a letter from Christine Williams. Along with a multitude of other grievances, the Great Cycle Lane con can claim yet another victim: highway flower beds. No one at Enfield Council, it seems, thought it fit to notify Enfield in Bloom, at least as a courtesy to its chairman, Dennis Lushy, of the damage to be inflicted on various flower beds, because they were in the way of this ill-conceived scheme that almost nobody wants, but which, through devious means, has been forced upon us all. The magnitude of the disruption is becoming clear now Green Lanes is underway, and this is only the start. These are the easy, non-contentious areas that are being tackled first. We know what gridlock is like. We had a dry run 2 weeks back one Tuesday evening when Enfield was at a standstill for hours, and we shall endure many more like that when the town and shopping centres are being done. Enfield residents will be sealed in along with our mad, money-grabbing council. But back to the flower beds. Enfield in Bloom, sponsored splendidly by Spurs, is essentially run by volunteers to keep our borough and our environment an attractive place in which to live and work, and to promote a community spirit through flowers and planting. As such, many of the highway beds are sponsored, often on behalf of businesses, but some by individuals and tended by volunteers. In effect, the council enjoys an unpaid workforce that maintains many centrepiece beds for the benefit of fellow residents. These public beds are the borough's shop window to the world. My daughter and I tend one such bed on the corner of Park Avenue and Village Road in Bush Hill Park. Enfield in Bloom recently paid for complete re-landscaping here, only to now discover it is in the firing line, and therefore to be demolished, with hundreds of pounds wasted, and for which Enfield in Bloom should be compensated. The bed is a focal point in the area, and we have striven to make it a feature for all to enjoy. Ultimately, all there will be to look at will be concrete and railings. Nobody will back down now. It has all gone too far, and we are all committed to this insanity for years. We must live through it and hope against hope that one day we might get our borough back.
Shoppers are being urged to mark Small Business Saturday on December the 3rd by shopping locally. Enfield Council is asking everyone to think local and see what shops in the borough have to offer rather than go further afield. The council hopes that by showcasing the borough, it might prompt customers to spend their cash locally, not just on that day, but in the run-up to Christmas and beyond. Alan Sitkin, Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration and Business, is a lecturer in business and has done a lot of research on spending patterns. He said, "These are really desperate times for local businesses, but we are absolutely committed to supporting them and urge our residents to shop at their nearest town centre on Small Business Saturday and in the run-up to Christmas. Independent traders make a tremendous contribution to our town centres and can really help shoppers. They are very flexible in terms of the sort of goods they stock and when they stock them, meaning they can often offer more to a local shopper than the bigger chains. Local businesses everywhere are under threat, with growing internet sales and the rise of supermarket giants. Federation of Small Businesses research shows that more of the money spent locally stays locally, with £1 spent with a local supplier worth £1.76 to the local economy, and only 36p if it is spent out of the area. The money retained by local retailers is also reinvested in job creation, remunerating staff, and paying for business rates which can be ploughed back into the borough by the council. Mr. Sitkin added, "Local shopping also helps keep independent shops and suppliers alive while retaining the distinctive character of your neighbourhood. In addition, local businesses are often owned by people who live in the borough. But it's not enough just to ask shoppers to spend in Enfield, it's twofold. Local retailers must do more to earn their custom. We are offering internet advice and plenty of business tips at Enterprise Enfield, because in this climate business owners need to do their research and make themselves as attractive as possible to customers in our borough. Otherwise, people will go elsewhere."
There's just 1 week left to nominate your most deserving up-and-coming athlete in Edmonton. The Gym Edmonton Green, based in the shopping centre, is supporting local athletes, whatever their sport, with its Place on the Podium Awards. Winners of the awards, which aim to help identify the next Olympic and Paralympic hopefuls, will win a free 12-month gym membership. Jim Graham of the gym said, "With 85 gyms across the UK, we want to celebrate the fact that we have so many aspiring athletes using our facilities. By providing around-the-clock access and affordable membership, we can offer support to members who are following their sporting dream. The Place on the Podium Awards seek to identify worthy athletes and provide free annual membership to support them in achieving their sporting ambitions. To nominate a worthy winner, email 150 words to story@thegymgroup.com, explaining why the athlete is so deserving and details of their sporting aspirations and achievements. Entries must be aged 18 and over. Nominations must be received by Wednesday, November the 30th. Visit www.thegymgroup.com/place on the podium, and there's a hyphen between those last 4 words, place on the podium, or you can follow on Twitter @the Gym Group.
Shoppers were full of Christmas cheer as they strolled around an annual frost fair searching for stocking fillers. The festive event took place over 4 days in the grounds of historic Jacobean mansion Hatfield House. More than 200 stalls sold original handcrafted gifts, including small trinkets and jewellery. Visitors were also treated to Christmas pop songs by the rock choir and street entertainment, including a magician who performed close-up tricks. Children got the chance to see Father Christmas, courtesy of Hatfield Rotary Club. And they also enjoyed an early white Christmas as they played under a snow machine and made their own festive decorations from flowers and greenery in workshops. Tasty treats available included burgers and locally produced sausages, and shoppers warmed their cockles with festive mulled wine and flavoured vodka. Cliff Bloomfield, event organiser, said, "We're so lucky we can hold the event in such a beautiful setting like Hatfield House, and there was a great turnout over the 4 days." And the pictures alongside this article show 4 children having great fun under the snow machine and a young brother and sister being entertained by Jester Jim and his furry purple puppet who has a blue nose.
Celebrations are being held this weekend to mark the first anniversary of the opening of an Enfield-based French Saturday school. Mayor of Enfield, Bernadette Lepage, will be the guest of honour at the Un Matin Français, a charity that teaches French to bilingual children with French-speaking parents or children who are keen to learn the language. The classes are taught at Grange Park Primary School in World's End Lane, Winchmore Hill. Charlotte Beddoes, head teacher at the French school, said the classes are for all children, French-speaking or not.
A pensioner who was rewarded for 50 years of charity work said she was so nervous her knees were knocking when she was handed her medal. Jacqueline Murphy of Claude Road, Leighton, was awarded the British Empire Medal in the Queen's Birthday Honours List earlier this year. The 76-year-old grandmother of four, has held the title of Pearly Queen of Hackney since she married her late husband, Mickey Murphy, 50 years ago. Mrs. Murphy received the medal from the Lord Lieutenant of London at the Tower of London on November the 4th. She said, 50 years of fundraising has been very rewarding because you see people benefiting from the money we raise. We helped lots of small charities who needed money, and one of my greatest memories is when we raised £62,000 for a pool at Oakview School in Loughton. I am so proud of it. We don't ask for rewards, but it is lovely. I was very emotional getting the medal, and it was also a nerve-wracking experience. My knees were knocking. But it was fantastic, and it is nice for all the Pearlies. Mrs. Murphy worked as a special needs carer and union representative at Leytonstone House before she retired. She has raised funds for a number of charities in the area, including Haven House in Woodford Green. Her husband was a Pearly King of Hackney until he died, aged 72, in September 2008. Now, Mrs. Murphy's grandson, Alfie, 17, has inherited the title and is fundraising for charities. Mrs. Murphy's daughter and Alfie's mother, Teresa Watts, said, "All the family are just so proud of her because she is so hard-working. My mum used to do charity work in the evenings and at the weekends, even when she was working 60 hours a week. She has been a great role model for all of us." Members of the Murphy family have held Pearly titles since 1875. The tradition began when orphan Henry Croft, a street sweeper, began collecting money for charities in the late 19th century. There is a beautiful photo of Jacqueline in her Pearly Queen outfit. Her crown consists of red fabric trimmed with pearl beads and drops. She is wearing a lace long-sleeved blouse with a large brooch at the neck, topped with a black waistcoat, decorated with pearl buttons, and a matching black skirt on which Pearly Queen of Hackney is spelt out in pearl buttons.
And now a letter from David Burrows, MP for Enfield Southgate. I was surprised by the letter accusing me of hypocrisy over the issue of child refugees. Mr. Burrows should offer an explanation. That was in the Advertiser on November the 16th. It is a charge I totally refute, but it comes from a misunderstanding of my role in the so-called Dubs Law, which has formed the legal basis for relocating child refugees from Europe, and particularly Calais. I have taken a lead in Parliament in championing the cause of refugees and helped ensure the government stepped up its response by extending resettlement schemes, including 3,000 places for children at risk in the Middle East and North Africa. In relation to the Dubs law, I voted against the original amendment because it would not have worked in practice. MPs have a duty to pass good law, not just good campaign pledges. I therefore worked with the government to revise the amendment to ensure there is a sound legal basis to respond to the crisis in Calais and transfer vulnerable child refugees. I am pleased we are now seeing several hundred child refugees being relocated. I have visited Calais twice to draw attention to the plight of lone children, asked questions in Parliament, and met regularly with ministers to get the complex practical operation of relocation right. There are still serious questions about providing safety for children dispersed across France and not to discriminate on the basis of age. I have consistently pressed the government to do more to uphold our historic and current duty to provide refuge for those fleeing persecution, and will continue to do so. I have consistently advocated for this government to provide shelter for unaccompanied minors, and will continue to do so. I have consistently worked with NGOs from Save the Children and UNICEF to the Red Cross and Médecins Sans Frontières, as well as MPs on both sides of the House. In terms of saying one thing and doing another, I think the spotlight should remain on Enfield Council. The Council has said it wants to welcome more refugees, but while it does house a significant number of asylum seekers, it has not, to date, accepted the relocation of any Syrians from the VPR scheme or children from Calais as part of the Dubs scheme.
A heroic junior doctor who rushed to the aid of a victim of a knife attack has been given a prestigious award. Dr. Matt Smith, 28, had just finished an 11-hour shift on December the 5th, 2015, when he happened upon the aftermath of an attack by Mudahin Mihar, 30, in Leytonstone Station. Seeing Mihar's victim, Lyle Zimmerman, in a pool of blood with cuts to his throat and no one helping him, he ignored his own safety and rushed to his side. Dr. Smith administered first aid to the 56-year-old musician while Mihar was still threatening people in the station with a large knife. Dr. Smith was nominated for the Bravery Award by Judge Nicholas Hillard, QC, who tried the terror case in June. And following his trial, schizophrenic Mihar was sentenced to life and is being held in Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital.
This is a letter from Z. Horton. I live in Enfield Island Village. This is within reach of Enfield Lock Station, but the transport is often cancelled or delayed, and the trains only run every half hour most of the time at best, and are severely overcrowded at peak times. These 30-minute gaps seem shocking, given that we are in Zone 6, comparable with Croydon and Heathrow, which have much more regular services and night bus provision. There are more frequent, more reliable services to Manchester than home to my house from work in London. Add to this the frequent shutdowns for engineering, this time every weekend for 5 weeks leading up to Christmas. Why is there no replacement bus service to Tottenham Hale offered? The alternative routes add between 35 and 60 minutes to each journey, and extra cost, making life a misery, and work shifts, Christmas shopping and leisure an impossibility. Why is a bus not provided, and why are local MPs not campaigning harder to improve local transport and life? Many people rely on public transport, and it should be possible to use that. But it seems it isn't in this borough, which is wrong.
I have a letter from the chairman of the Labour group in Enfield Council, Councillor Mary Maguire. Councillor Terry Neville has once again used his column, Advertiser November the 16th, to give vent to his anger at being in opposition. But he omits to tell readers that the entire Conservative group of Enfield councillors planned and staged a walkout from the September full council meeting, thus creating the democratic deficit that he whines about. We, the Labour majority, had agreed with the opposition a timed agenda that guaranteed the item that was at the heart of the staged walkout would be debated in full. His group misled the public in the gallery, let down the electorate, and showed their contempt for the democracy of our borough. They also walked out on their own timetabled debates, which they had previously assured us were of vital importance. Furthermore, Mr. Neville claims that we had voted down a motion calling on another councillor to resign. This is untrue. The motion was not reached on the agenda, possibly because Mr. Neville insists on speaking on every single issue on the agenda. I ask your readers to have at hand a large barrel of salt whenever they feel the urge to read Mr. Neville's musings.
England had not long won the World Cup, and the Beatles had just brought out Sgt. Pepper when Nights in White Satin was released by the Moody Blues. Almost half a century later, it's a testament to the song's enduring appeal that the timeless classic, which blended rock with classical music and was a hit on both sides of the Atlantic 3 times, still receives frequent airplay on the radio, winning new generations of fans. The track was taken from the first of the Brummie Band's massively successful quartet of concept albums. The string of hits which those albums produced are performed by a 5-piece outfit featuring 2 former members of the Moody's when the show legend of a band, the Moody Blues, comes to the Willotts Theatre in Darks Lane, Potter's Bar, on Thursday, December the 1st. Although not part of the group's original lineup, drummer Gordie Marshall and keyboard player Paul Bliss performed together for 20 years with the Moody Blues. Joining them is lead singer of 10cc Mick Wilson, guitarist Tim Wilson, and bass player Malcolm Moore. All are talented musicians as well as songwriters, with Paul having written hits for Olivia Newton-John, Janet Jackson, Uriah Heep, Al Jarreau, Graham Nash and Celine Dion, as well as performing and writing for the Hollies for a number of years. Mick's vocals have also featured with Lionel Richie, Kylie Minogue and Smokey Robinson. Tim's credits include Leona Lewis, Westlife, Boyzone, Ollie Murs, Emma Bunton, Ronan Keating and Beverly Knight, and Malcolm has recorded hits with One Direction and Alison Moyet. In addition to Nights in White Satin, other songs featured include the #1 hit Go Now, plus Tuesday Afternoon, Legend of a Mind, Timothy Leary's Dead, I Know You're Out There Somewhere, Question, and Isn't Life Strange?
Donald Trump has been cut down to size by unorthodox artist AJ Trashy, who creates miniature works of art out of the packaging coffee shop drinkers and customers at fast food restaurants chuck away. A tiny painting of American President-elect on a Starbucks tea bag tag features in his latest quirky and unconventional exhibition at the Dugdale Centre in Enfield Town. The image, smaller than a postage stamp, shows Mr. Trump about to clobber Hillary Clinton over the head with a baseball bat bound with barbed wire. I've based it on the American TV horror drama series The Walking Dead, about a zombie apocalypse. It's a bit aggressive, admits AJ. Used sugar sachets, crumpled paper napkins, tea bag tags and even McDonald's chip cartons form the canvases for the 42-year-old's intrinsically detailed paintings, many of which feature world-famous icons. Having exhibited at the Dugdale in London Road 2 years ago with his Sugar Trashy show, he returns with his incredible Shrinking Man exhibition. Self-taught, without any formal artistic training, AJ, whose real name is Alex Tracy, started painting on napkins when he used to drink cappuccinos in cafes until he realised he was allergic to coffee. He switched to tea, but he never seemed to get a napkin with his cuppa, and he began creating images on the sugar wrappers he got and the tea bag tags that came in his cup. And after discarding objects, AJ can often be seen in coffee shops creating his mini masterpieces using acrylic paint and ultra-fine brushes. "I'm actually colourblind," said AJ, "so I work in acrylic paints because they're brighter and I can see them," he explained. He says the art he's now producing is even smaller and more detailed than that showcased in his previous exhibition and can sometimes take him a week to complete. His latest collection draws on subject matter that has made an impression on him over the past year and features images of Muhammad Ali, Lemmy from Motorhead, Prince, David Bowie, astronaut Tim Peake, and the Great British Bake Off winner Candice Brown. His works sell for £180 for small items, up to £1,200 for larger. And the incredible Shrinking Man is at the Dugdale Centre, which is free to go and see, and it runs until Saturday, January the 7th.
This is Howard Medwell's column. "Sure, he's a billionaire," said Donald Trump Jr., speaking about his father, the president-elect, "but he's a blue-collar billionaire." It reminded me of Richard Digens's 1977 song about the working-class millionaire whose mansion has marble halls with goalposts painted on the walls and other things the Hampstead crowd detest. What with Trump and Brexit, the Hampstead crowd have lots to detest just lately. When I first moved to Edmonton, it was very obviously a working class area. A high proportion of my neighbours worked in the engineering factories, which then lined the North Circular Road and the Great Cambridge Road, where now you see mainly retail parks. Most people owned rather than rented their homes. I wouldn't say they all fantasized about being millionaires, but many assumed that, as property owners, they had achieved permanent financial security. My street has changed a lot. The neatly maintained terraced houses have become multi-occupied slums, with rubbish permanently piled outside. And yet the dream of getting on, of getting rich, is probably as widespread as ever. For the majority of us, it is an empty fantasy, and this fantasy lies behind the successes of Thatcherite and Blairite politics in Britain and of Donald Trump in the USA. And that, I repeat, was Howard Medwell's column.
Nigerian artist Titus Agbara is through to the semi-final of Sky Art's Landscape Artist of the Year competition, after impressing judges with his technique of painting oils with a palette knife. Born in Lagos, Titus discovered his artistic talent as a child and studied fine art in Nigeria before moving to Edmonton in 2007 and settling down with his wife Oluwa and their 22-month-old daughter Olivia. For the next stage of the competition, he plans to incorporate the current refugee crisis in his painting and reveals how his art often draws elements from both his life in the UK and Nigeria. How does it feel to be through to the semi-final of Sky Art's Landscape Artist of the Year competition? It's a thing of joy to my soul. This is my third attempt. I've participated in the heats for Portrait of the Artist of the Year 2014, Landscape Artist of the Year 2015, and 2016. I feel happy to have been selected 3 times, as the process is gradually getting me to the top. Can you tell me about your technique? I just let it flow. My art goes through stages from my emotion, meditation, concept, composition, to process of execution, as my technique has been defined with the use of a palette knife. I hardly do sketches on paper, as I work directly on the surface, mostly with oils or paint. The application of paint is done with the palette knife, and how detailed the piece is depends on the level of paint applied, as the knife gives a texture to the painting that perhaps is difficult to achieve with a brush. How did you develop this skill? I had the flair for anything arty when I was a child. Whenever I come across someone drawing or painting, every other thing becomes secondary to me, as I am lost in trying to watch and observe how it's been done. What landscape will you be painting in the semi-final? As the location entails a wide expanse of sea, land and atmosphere, with this impression in my mind, my thoughts and emotions go to those that have lost their lives in trying to seek for a better life migrating through the sea. So I'll try to see how I could relay all these factors into my painting. Have you entered any other painting competitions in the past? I've been successful to be shortlisted as finalist in the under 35 category for Winsor and Newton at the Mall Gallery, London. I was also shortlisted finalist in the Artists and Illustrators magazine Artist of the Year category. Do you incorporate themes from Africa in your work? Yes, as I lived there for so long and developed my craft there, so my painting is still emotionally attached to that place. The painting I submitted for this year's Sky Arts competition brings together my day-to-day life in the UK and relates it to my way of life back home. Do you prefer the landscapes in Britain or in Africa? Landscape features are similar around the globe, it's just the environmental and climatic conditions that affect them. The cloud, the sea, the river, the topography has similarities as it relates to the region. I could paint any landscape as it affects me emotionally and how I relate to the subject I want to convey. Is painting your full-time job, or do you have another job too? I couldn't live fully on my passion as I used to do as a full-time studio artist before coming to the UK. I do other jobs which sometimes steal my precious hours of painting, and this makes me psychologically down. So hopefully someday I'll get back into my studio full-time. Is painting a relaxing way to escape reality? Reality is inevitable in life. As long as I derive happiness in my painting, every other thing falls into place. Be optimistic without placing much attention. Life is a gradual process. Further details of the competition are on skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. 2 pictures of Titus's paintings accompany this article. One is a street scene, seen through the front window of the upper deck of a bus. The other shows a slightly different style and is a house on the edge of a lake. There is a fallen log in the water and the trees are reflected around it.
Bank staff more used to dealing with commercial property finance than fantasy kingdoms got busy with the tinsel and decorations on Friday to transform part of inclusive Chicken Shed Theatre into mini Munchkin Land. More than 25 volunteers from Barclays Real Estate team swapped their suits for overalls and jeans as they gave the bar at the theatre in Chaseside, Southgate, a magical makeover. The transformation was themed to match Chicken Shed's Christmas production of Adventure to Oz, with a cast of 800, which is running from this week until January the 7th. They support the theatre and have been decorating our bar every Christmas for the last 5 years, said Chicken Shed spokeswoman Susan Jamson. We try to create a theatrical experience the moment the audience enters the building, and the thrilling Oz Wonderland will wow them when they see it.
And here's a letter from Emily Sivier of Testimony Films. The award-winning documentary company Testimony Films are making a new documentary for BBC4 celebrating the history of the Raleigh Bicycle Company and the bicycles that revolutionised cycling in Britain. We are looking for interesting stories throughout the decades from the people who enjoyed Raleigh bikes. We would love to hear from the oldest people in Britain who have had or still own a Raleigh bike. Were you born in the interwar period and can talk about cycling in the 1920s and 1930s? Do you have fond memories of a Raleigh bike and the freedom it offered you, or tales of adventures on two wheels? Were you inspired by the sporting greats who rode Raleigh bikes? If cycling has had or still has an impact on your life, or that of someone you know, we would love to talk to you about your story. And if you would like to share your memory with us, please get in touch with me on 0117 925 8589. Alternatively, email emily.sivyer, that's SIVYER, at testimonyfilms.com, or write to 12 Great George Street, Bristol, BS1 5RH.
Pedalling furiously, TV presenter Matt Baker was cheered on by Enfield residents as he travelled through the borough on Friday on the final leg of his 70-mile rickshaw challenge for BBC TV's Children in Need. Riding with the joint presenter of the One Show was one of the team of 6 children who accompanied him, rotating with one another on each stage of the gruelling trip, having set off 8 days earlier in Jedburgh, Scotland. The rickshaw and its celebrity outrider were gone in the blink of an eye as they travelled along Hertford Road, High Street Ponders End and 4 Street, Edmonton, on their way to the BBC studios in central London, where the annual fundraising telethon was being held that night. His efforts, along with those of the young riders who had triumphed over their disabilities to take on the challenge, raised more than £3.5 million towards the final Children in Need total of £40 million. Praising the efforts of the youngsters who had ridden with him, Matt said, "They have done this challenge for other children, so children just like them can overcome these challenges. The support we have had all the way has been outstanding. I can't believe the turnout, which was for all Team Rickshaw." He told the team of youngsters, "I don't need to tell you how proud I am of you." This article is accompanied by a photo of Matt Baker, who's seen riding his bicycle alongside the rickshaw.
Trailblazing long jumper Ryan Raghu was told he would never walk. The GB para-athlete spent the first 8 years of his life in a wheelchair after being born with permanent brain damage and cerebral palsy. Last week he was at Lavender Primary School in Enfield, inspiring pupils to aim high and be the best they can. Ryan led the school's assembly on Wednesday, recounting his amazing life story. The pupils at the primary school in Lavender Road sat mesmerised as they listened to how the 20-year-old broke the T36 British record at the Queensland Open Championships, just 3 months after taking up the sport, with a massive 4.61 metres leap. Remarkably, it met the qualification distance needed for selection for this year's Paralympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. But Ryan missed out because the T36 slots, the disability sport classification for people with coordination impairments, including cerebral palsy, went instead to 2 of Team GB's track athletes. Ryan from Croydon, South London, said, "I speak to children a lot. They always seek to take something away from my story, so in many ways my journey is an opportunity for me to inspire people. My parents were told I'd never walk, but refused to accept that prognosis, and for that I'm grateful now. It's a privileged position to be in, and I am very proud to have reached a level in the sport and be the first person in British history to do that." Ryan is hoping his record-breaking achievements can help pave the way for the next generation of disability athletes. He was joined by Laviai Nilsson, a 20-year-old sprinter who trains at Enfield and Haringey Athletic Club, in between studying geography at King's College London. She said, "It was really fun to be at the school and show the children some techniques. I was inspired by an athlete who came into my school when I was younger, and inspiration is really important for children." The sprinter has sliced more than 5 seconds off her 400 metres personal best over the last 2 seasons. Her time of 52.25 seconds to win a race in Belgium last year was the quickest by a British under-20 runner for 33 years. PE coordinator at the school, Stuart Halley, said, "It was a really special day for the children. They learned a lot about athletics, but not only that, they learned that you can achieve whatever you want if you aim high. When Ryan was leading the assembly, every child was transfixed."
And now a letter from Tracy Benson, Employers' Liability Specialist Lawyer, Slater and Gordon. "Nobody deserves to be punched, kicked, or suffer life-changing injuries when they are at work. But that is what we are seeing on an increasingly regular basis. What is even more alarming is that the majority of these devastating cases are from nurses and teachers, the very people who try to help society. Research we have carried out returned shocking results. More than 1/3 of public sector workers surveyed said they had been attacked or abused by members of the public. Of those, more than 1 in 10 had been physically assaulted. We have publicised the case of Louise Jago, who was left in chronic pain for the rest of her life and unable to continue the job she loved after she was attacked by a patient. Nobody should have to endure trauma like that for simply doing their job."
And I'd like to take a moment to describe this week's photo of the week, which is an avenue of autumnal trees in Queen Elizabeth playing fields. The reddish-brown leaves on the trees is duplicated by the carpet of leaves on the ground, stretching far into the distance.
A song from the hit musical Grease has been adopted by campaigners opposing plans to move Palmer's Green into the Edmonton parliamentary constituency. Commuters at Palmer's Green railway station were treated to the anthem "We Go Together" as campaigners took their battle to the streets. Under Boundary Commission proposals, the Enfield Southgate parliamentary seat would be split up, with Palmer's Green becoming part of the Edmonton constituency. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows says the proposed change disrupts local ties disrupts local communities and breaks up our community. The proposals are part of a bid to cut the number of MPs from 650 to 600. An estimated 70 to 80 people turned up for the public meeting organised by the Save Our Southgate at the Intimate Theatre in Green Lanes last week, to see how the changes would affect them. Mr. Burrows said, "Palmer's Green residents will be used to campaigning to stay in Enfield Southgate, having successfully fought off previous boundary change plans. Palmer's Green has strong historic and community links to the old borough of Southgate, which should be respected and maintained. As the Grease lyrics say, we go together." Mr. Burrows has been the MP for Enfield Southgate since 2005. He wants to see the constituency remain intact, with the addition of the Bush Hill Park ward to make up the numbers. He also wants to keep 3 MPs representing residents in the borough of Enfield. The Save Our Southgate campaign says the Boundary Commission proposals will disembowel Enfield Southgate. Edward Smith, chairman of Enfield Southgate Conservatives, said, "I think people are surprised and shocked. They see that Enfield Southgate is an historic and community entity, and this constituency has grown up around artery roads and railways. Most people are very concerned and feel their representation will suffer," added Mr. Smith. The Boundary Commission consultation ends on Monday, December the 5th.
And now a letter from M. Smith, who lives in New Southgate. "I live in Linden Road, where we are set to lose our 2 green spaces, as are some other similar sites nearby. The Council's Barnet 1st July magazine describes these as exciting times for open spaces in Barnet. Residents are at their wits' end over the plans by Barnet Homes to build a block of 4 flats and 2 houses on this very small site. There has been a petition of 86 and more than 50 excellent objections related to loss of privacy and amenities, parking and traffic concerns. The application appears to contravene many policies, but was still recommended for approval. Barnet Homes and planners are too flexible with policies meant to safeguard us, but inflexible with their design. Planners say this development should be entirely independent of established principles of site layout, which sounds like it's only viable if principles are broken. They argue the need for housing justifies any strain on existing residents. This will overwhelm our community. It's unreasonable to put affordable housing on our amenity spaces when there is none on the massive NLBP site at the back of us. 2 of us and 2 of our ward councillors spoke at the previous planning committee meeting to object and achieved a deferral. This simply resulted in the developers telling us that they've checked everything and it's all quite fine. Due to late receipt of notification, our fresh consultation period was just 5 working days. We feel we've not been listened to properly and are being imposed on. I wonder what more we can do."
Children told people across the world to be kind and believe in themselves when they released balloons into the sky during Anti-Bullying Week. Pupils from South Grove Primary School, Tottenham, released the balloons to the sky containing messages about ways to stop bullying. They hope their words of wisdom will help to stamp out bullying altogether, Kamari wrote, "My message to the world is, be kind and share." Gia wrote, "My message to the world is to believe in yourself. If you get bullied, tell a teacher, a parent, or an adult you trust." Sophia wrote, "For everyone to be smiling for every hour, every second, and every day. Never doubt that any person can make a big difference and alter the world. You never know what could happen." The children are all hoping to get replies to their messages. The balloons were launched as part of Anti-Bullying Week, which ended on Friday. The children were also invited to Alexandra Palace to attend the Diana Award Anti-Bullying Conference. Moses wrote, "My message to the world is to be really kind and stop other children all around the country to stop bullying."
And here's a tasty review from the Gannets. Entering Chez Tonton is like stepping into a traditional bistro in the heart of Paris. The owner, Eric, was warm and welcoming, and his staff were attentive and helpful when explaining the menu. The bite-sized garlic breads brought to our table as an hors d'oeuvre were just the right size to whet our appetites. Drinking in the ambience, as well as drinking a very refreshing Kir Royale, French champagne cocktail, we decided on the Parfait de Voilà, chicken liver pâté, at £6.95, and moule marinière at £7.10, both from the specials board for our starters. They did not disappoint. The parfait was as light as air and delicious, while the moules were juicy and flavoursome. The main course of roast lamb in red wine jus at £17.95 was presented so beautifully that greedy Gannet could not wait to tuck in. She declared it mouth-watering, tender and very, very Moorish. The same was said of the braised French rabbit, cooked slowly with white wine, cream, bacon, mushrooms, tarragon and deep-fried onions. It was succulent, and there was plenty to be had. Both were served with dauphinoise potatoes and plenty of perfectly cooked veggies. Sorry, people, I'm hungry as I'm reading this. Between courses, we had a chance to chat to our host, who with his wife Claudine has run Chez Tonton since 1984. The secret of their continued success, said Eric, is down to team, and they have a wonderful team around them. Their ingenious chef, Hubert Champion, has been with them for 15 years, and Eric highly praises his culinary skills, and rightly so. Greedy Gannet and I decided to sample one last course of Hubert's fine work and plump for homemade ice parfait with crushed raspberries and amaretti biscuits and the vanilla creme brulee. It was a delectable ending to a lovely evening with such friendly hosts. Chez Tonton offers lunch and dinner specials as well as an a la carte menu, and the lunch special is every day, 2 courses for £9.95, and the evening special is on Tuesday to Thursdays from £16.95 for 2 courses. And you can find Chez Tonton on East Barnet Road, New Barnet.
Hundreds of harrowing first-hand accounts of the first day of the Battle of the Somme, written by the men who fought in it, are to be made public for the first time. The mostly handwritten experiences of the Tommies who went over the top on July the 1st, 1916, give a breathtaking insight into the death, chaos and devastation of the bloodiest day in British military history. Almost 60,000 British and Commonwealth soldiers were killed or wounded on July the 1st. And there would be more than 1 million casualties on both sides by the end of the 141-day offensive. The reminiscences have been donated to the Imperial War Museum and will be added to its online records of British soldiers who fought on the battlefield in northern France. The 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme was on Friday.
Saracens overcame the absence of numerous key players to claim a fine 28-13 victory at Sale and maintain their place at the top of the Aviva Premiership table. The reigning champions were missing the core of the team through either international call-ups, injury or suspension, but their strength in depth shone through as they were able to ease to an impressive victory. Alex Lazowski opened the scoring through a penalty, but Sale hit back and took the lead when Josh Beaumont scored a try which AJ McGinty converted. However, Saracens were not behind for long as they responded with a fine try 5 minutes later, with Marcelo Bosch applying the finishing touches to a flowing move. Lazowski converted and then slotted over a penalty to give Sarries a 13-7 lead at the interval, which they extended early in the second half when another sweeping attack ended with Matt Gallagher touching down. An exchange of penalties between the kickers left the visitors leading 21-13, and they went on to seal their win by claiming their third try 6 minutes from time, courtesy of a stunning solo effort from Ben Spencer, with Lazowski adding the conversion to round off the scoring. A lot of our experienced players were outstanding, said Director of Rugby Mark McCall. We were really pleased to pick up the points, and really pleased with a lot of aspects of the performance in terms of the qualities we want to show every week. Our maul defence, 5 metres from our line, was outstanding. It's normally a big strength of theirs, but Jim Hamilton and the rest of the forwards did a great job. Alex looked really sharp out there. He ran the ball beautifully and passed well. We got a couple of long-range tries, but we were alive to the situation and capitalised.
Nick Parper is relishing the prospect of making a rapid return to the ring as he prepares for his second fight in less than a month. The 25-year-old cruiserweight from Palmer's Green, who learned his trade at Edmonton Eagles Boxing Club, made a triumphant professional debut in July 2014, but had to wait until earlier this month for his second pro bout when he secured a quick-fire knockout against Mario Lakatos. However, Parper is facing a much shorter wait to return to action this time around, as he has another confirmed fight against Geoffrey Cave at York Hall in Bethnal Green on December the 3rd. And he is delighted to be getting back to the ring so soon. I lost a whole year of fights because of injuries, he said. I had a long time out with a shoulder problem, and every time I thought I'd recovered, I suffered a setback. It was a really hard time, and I did get very down at first, but I always had the belief that I would be able to get back. It was a tremendous relief to finally be able to fight again the other week, and it almost felt as if I was making my debut again. I took out all my frustration on my opponent and managed to knock him out in the first round. It couldn't have gone better. I didn't sustain any cuts or bruises in my last fight, and I'll be fully prepared for the next one. I'm looking to make up for lost time. This will probably be my last 4-round fight, and I'm hoping to move up to 6-rounders in the new year. Anyone wanting tickets for Parper's upcoming fight can contact him on 07737 248 061.
And here's some local football news. Enfield Borough recorded a 2-0 victory over Grendon Rangers in the Spartan South Midlands League Division 2 Cup. Hosts Borough dominated from the off, but Guy Kianjibeni, Brian Shubanshu and Tom Upokyu failed to capitalise on their chances. But Henderson Brown broke the deadlock when he turned the ball into the top corner from the edge of the area. The second half started in a similar fashion to the first, but it was the visitors who looked as though they might score the next. Rangers had a good chance to equalise, capitalising on a mistake from the Enfield defence, but Mildas Lucosius made the save. The hosts doubled their lead in the 7th minute after a long ball from Alfie Hatch found Brown, who stoked home the finish. Manager Marvin Walker said, "There were some brilliant individual performances today, but most importantly, we played very well as a team. The score was only 2-0, but it was a very one-sided game. If we play like that, 9 times out of 10, we will get the result we want."
Well, you will have noticed that we've started to describe photos when they appear alongside articles. We don't know if this is a good idea, and we'd like your feedback, so please tell us whether you like it or don't like it, or make other suggestions. We've reached the end of our programme for this week, so thank you for listening, and from the team of Sonia, Jenny, Roz, myself and Ian on the controls, it's goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Oh, and also don't forget you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with the Enfield Talking newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.